Okay, now we're going to start recording.
I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, this evening. Is there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none, so noted. I need a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening, move it forward. A mover to seconder, moved by Mr. Gray, seconded by Bill. All in favor? And that's carried. A motion to adopt the minutes of the November 16th meeting. Mover, Mr. Beneteau, Sherry, seconder. All questions? Errors, omissions? All in favor? That'll be carried. Thank you. And we'll move right straight to our applicant this evening, Mr. Hennon and Christia Brazier. I'll turn it over to Corrine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And starting the PowerPoint presentation for tonight. Just adjusting here. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's start with the first slide. Great. So the first application on the only application on today's agenda is B3421, and it is for the severance of a surplus dwelling. The property address is 3280 Drummond Road. It's in Colchester South, Ward 3, and the official plan designation for the property is agricultural, and the zoning is agricultural A1.1. The total size of the property is 19.64 acres in size, and the severed surplus lot here shown in purple is 1.64 acres. The retained lot shown in green would have an area of 18 acres in total size. So the farm lot in green is accessed directly from Drummond Road. There is an existing culvert to access this farm lot down by the intersection of the 3rd and Drummond Road. The property has one existing dwelling and one outbuilding on the subject lands. And the dwelling is in good habitable condition. It has a private septic system, and as typical, that would need to be inspected as a condition of any approval for a severance application. In the inset map there, you can just see a bit of a zoomed in view of what the property looks like from the air. You can see an existing home and a large size pole barn. There is 2 accesses to this property, and you will see them. That will stay with the surplus dwelling. Okay, next slide, please. Just some pictures from the street view. You can see the 2 structures there. One thing that I would like to note to the committee is just so that we don't have an irregular shaped lot in this case, there would be a little bit of land that is currently under agricultural production there, just in between the shop where Sarah's showing you there. That would just be coming straight across as proposed, as it would be a little bit difficult to get the equipment into that area. So just to square it off in a rectangular shape, okay? Next slide, please. So when considering a consent application, you need to make sure that these items here are fulfilled. The policies for the provincial policy statement, we assessed the application. We didn't find any conflicts, and it did meet the criteria needed for a surplus dwelling consent. The official plan states that it has to be a habitable structure, and there has to be adequate services on the property. It does meet the minimum lot size for a surplus lot, that it is not over 1 hectare in size. It's actually only 1.64 acres in size. There is the restriction that whenever you do a surplus dwelling, that no houses can be constructed on the retained farmland, and this will be identified on the town's GIS system. And then again, there will be a condition that the septic system be inspected. And lastly, does it satisfy the zoning bylaw provisions? This proposal does satisfy all other zoning provisions except for one, and that's for relief for the reduction in the farm lot size. So let's go to the next slide and we'll talk about that. So this is the actual provision that we are asking relief for. So it's the reduction in the minimum lot area size for an A1.1 lot. And typically that would be 40 hectares or 100 acres in size, or as existing. So the or as existing is what applies here today. The existing property, 19.64, without with subtraction of the surplus dwelling, it'll be 1.64 to be a result of the 18 acres. Next slide, please. When considering the minor variance, you have to satisfy these policies. So the 4 tests. Does it comply with the OP and the zoning bylaw? Yes, it does. The official plan does permit the creation of a surplus dwelling lot. As long as it meets the criteria for the PPS, this application does satisfy that. Number 2, the proposed variance is minor and desirable for the appropriate land use. We do always note that lots do vary in size in the A1.1 zoning district, and no new development is being proposed on the severed or the retained parcels. Number 3, it states, is it compatible with the character of the neighborhood? Surplus lots are around to this typical size that we see for surplus lots in the town of Essex. It is comparable. The dwelling and the accompanying infrastructure, they're all existing, and there will be no negative impacts on the neighboring lots. So there will also be a prohibition against any construction, new dwellings on that vacant farmland. And lastly, the variance deals with circumstances particular to the site and development. Minor variance is necessary to accommodate that surplus dwelling application and those resulting lot sizes. Next slide, please. Should the committee choose to approve these applications, approval should be subject to the satisfying of the following typical conditions listed here. And you will note that the septic system will need to be inspected, as number 5 states there. Upon circulation of the applications, we did not receive any objections to the applications for internal departments or external agencies, and we did not receive any inquiries or comments from the public regarding these applications. So at this point, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair. We do have Mr. Matthew Heenan and Miss Christina Bezier, and they're joining us today. Thank you.
I'll go to you, Mr. Hennon. Do you wish to add anything or subtract anything?
No, she stated it all fairly well. She's on point with everything she has described to you guys. I am planning on retaining the farm lot to farm with my agricultural business that I own. We also have a building permit on a separate lot down the road that we're going to be constructing a new home for ourselves next year. So hence the reason why this is a surplus dwelling here.
Thank you. Is there questions from the committee? Mr. Beneteau, go ahead.
First off, on the application, it says Matthew Hennon and Christine Bezier, but on this sheet of paper I have here, it says he's the sole proprietor of everything.
I am the sole proprietor of the farm agricultural business. Christine and I have been living together for the last 3 years, and I've had for almost 15 years. So
Can like what I'm saying is the application, one's saying he's the sole proprietor of everything, and the other one's through you. Just down there first.
Okay, I'll refer to Rita. Go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. The form that you see that indicates Mr. Hennon is the sole proprietor, Mr. Beneteau, is a demonstration of farm consolidation. So that's just in reference to the farm property he owns on the 3rd concession, not this specific property.
But it does say he's the sole proprietor of this one too, on that we're after the surplus for.
So through the chair, I don't know if Mr. Hennon can clarify, but are you the principal owner of the subject parcel?
So when she became officially moved in here last year, her name got added to the deed. So that could be the reason why you were confused. But we do jointly own this property together, and I will retain ownership of the new farmland, the 18 acres myself.
And I have one more if I can. And it says on here that, is there a dwelling? No, but in 2022, but I can say I'm going to build a house in 2022.
So the site is prepped for a house and the building permit submitted to be built. PERCA has been paid, the town has been paid, so we're proceeding with. We have house plans done by Dan Boudreau. I have those I could show you as well.
Okay. What, okay, I just have one more question through you, Percy. What becomes a surplus dwelling? How do you classify a surplus dwelling? Through you.
Go, you want to answer or go ahead? I mean, okay, I'm not going to say it. Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, a surplus dwelling is simply surplus to the farming operation. So if the dwelling isn't needed for the farming operation, such as, a place to house farm labor, for example, then it's surplus. It could still be owned by the same person and still be inhabited by the same person that owns that farm. It just has to be surplus to the farming operation. So it doesn't serve the farming operation.
So through you again. So they could live in town and declare this a surplus.
You, Mr. Chair, that is correct.
Okay. I'm good.
Okay, Mr. Pocock?
Through you, Chair, does the applicant have any more farmland, or is this the only farmland to his farming operation?
The 18 acres here, the 25 acres on the third. I also rent several farmland pieces around town. So, but the owning is the 2 parcels.
Okay, so you're still under the, okay.
I can definitely vouch for Mr. Hennon because he owns more machinery than most small farmers, works quite a bit of land. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else have any questions? Is that no? Is there anyone outside of the committee that wishes to speak on the application? Seeing none, I'll ask for.
Sorry, can I ask just one more quick before you go past that?
Go ahead.
Does that have to be changed? Because he's saying that she is on those deeds too. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't show the application. of 2 people.
That'll all get straightened out with the transfer.
It's not straight out here, is what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe it was signed by the joint tenant, the application itself. Like on the application for consent, both names are identified.
So that makes
Yes,
sense.
and it was signed. Yep.
On that application. So, okay, I'm looking for a motion on this application. B3421. I need a mover. Mr. Gray, you move to approve the application. I need a seconder. Sherry, questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. So on the minor application, A2521, I'll also need a motion for that. Need a mover. Moved by Mr. Beneteau, seconded by Bill, you got your hand up? Nope. Seconded by Phil. Questions? All in favor? That'll be carried as well. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hennon. That takes care of that business for this evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do I need to remain on, or did you guys just need me to get off?
No, you're free to go. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Happy holidays, everyone.
Same to you. Thanks. Do we have any unfinished business this evening? So motion to approve the Committee of Adjustment meeting schedule for 2022. Is it favorable for everyone, or is there anything that needs to be changed on it?
May I ask, is there times on it or just dates?
Chair, there are times and dates. I'm just going to share the screen for just a moment. Once we can see. Okay, so as you can see, the hearing date for 2022 will be January 18, 2022 at 4:30. So we are continuing on the 4:30 time as previously requested. And you will see that we go until October 18th. 2022, because we will be having elections And then we will commence again January 17th of 2023. Why is there meeting on a Wednesday? Because that is, I believe it's Easter. So the council has a meeting on the Tuesday, so we cannot do business on the same day that council does business. So we are going to be moving it to a Wednesday. Okay.
That clear for everyone? Bill, okay? So I need a motion for the scheduling of to move it. Moved by Sherry, seconded by Mr. Beneteau. All in favor? That'll be carried. We're not required to have elections for the treasurer or secretary. They've been appointed. And before I turn this over to Rita, Sarah, sorry, for elections for this evening, I just want to take time to wish everybody the best of the holiday season and a Merry Christmas. And I also want to thank the committee for all the hard work you guys have done in the past 3 years. Also the staff for their humor and their hard work as well. Before we move over to Sarah, I just want to say that I'm not looking to be your chair or your vice chair in this next election. Because of COVID and probably some difficulties in getting information to me, I'll just step down and sit as a member. Okay, thank you. Sarah, go ahead.
Okay, everybody. We are now going to be calling for the position of chair and vice chair. So that means thank you again to Percy Dufour for filling that position throughout 2021. We really do appreciate you and your guidance this year, as well as Mr. Brian Gray. Thank you for being the vice chair for the season of 2021. We do truly appreciate you and your commitment in that role this year. So with that being said, again, we are having nominations open at this time. So we are going to call for the nomination for the position of chair. So I'm going to ask, does anyone have a nomination that they would like to do?
Brian Gray is chair. I believe we need a second.
Yep. Do we have a seconder? Okay, Mr. Pocock. Do we have any other nominations at this time for chair? Any other nominations for chair? Okay. Mr. Gray, do you stand? Do you accept the position of chair?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Congratulations. You will now be the chair for the season of 2022. Okay.
Thank
Can
you,
I
everyone.
get an all in favor? Is everyone in favor of that? Is it carried? Good. Okay. Okay. All right. So now we're going to move on to the position of vice chair. So at this time, I'm going to ask for nominations. Do we have a nomination for a vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Phil, if I can.
Phil, okay. Do we have a seconder?
I will second it.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations on the floor for vice chair?
I also will nominate Mr. Beneteau for vice chair.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for Mr. Beneteau? Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to ask Mr. Pocock, do you stand and accept the nomination for vice chair? I'm sorry, Mr. Pocock, you're muted.
Oh, I'll pass. I'll let Ray take the position.
Okay. Ray, at this time, I'm going to ask you, do you stand and accept the nomination? Okay. Okay, then congratulations, Mr. Beneteau. You are the vice chair for the 2022 season. Okay, thank you so very much, everybody. And that's it for me.
Okay, congratulations, Mr. Gray and Mr. Beneteau. Need a motion for adjournment. Moved by Mr. Beneteau, seconded by Sherry. All in favor? That's carried. Have a good holiday season. Thank you. Good night.
Everybody.
Thank you, Percy, for everything you did this year.